The Mafia boss came to her apartment, with blood on his coat and 2 bodies on her floor. Savannah thought Damien Cross had come to punish her, after firing her that morning. But when 2 men broke into her home and cornered her little sister in the bathroom, Damien arrived with a silenced gun and a message colder than death. She wasn't the problem. She was the target. Let's step into the dark together, you and I. Picture this. It is 6:12 in the morning, dead quiet, deep underground beneath the Cross Meridian Hotel. The security room is humming with the cold, heavy breath of cooling fans, while 18 massive monitors paint the concrete walls in shifting shades of amber and blood red. Then, boom, the steel doors of the private elevator slide apart, and out steps Damien Cross. The man is wearing a black coat and leather gloves, still soaking wet from a long, cold drive straight out of Detroit. He walks with the slow, terrifying rhythm of a boss who completely owns the air he breathes. Look, true power does not need to scream for attention. It just walks into the room and everyone else stops breathing. Damien does not even glance at the screens, and he sure as hell does not ask what they mean. Right in the middle of the room, Savannah Rhodes is totally slumped over the main console. Her hand rests heavy on the spacebar like sleep just knocked her out mid-sentence. Meanwhile, all 18 displays are going crazy, flashing in scarlet and amber like a massive fire. Nobody bothering to put. Next to her is the sad survival kit of an overworked techie, a cup of freezing cold coffee, and a partially eaten granola bar. We push ourselves to the absolute limit for a paycheck, completely forgetting that the corporate machine will never love us back, and it will never let us rest. Standing right behind the boss is Marcus Vale. This guy is rocking a sharp gray suit and gold-rimmed glasses, looking exactly like the slick, shady right-hand man you love to hate. He leans in and whispers, "I told you, hiring an outsider was a massive mistake. She cannot even stay awake for 1 shift." Damien totally ignores him. His eyes go dead cold, packing the heavy weight of a storm that has been brewing for years. "Wake her up," he snaps. A nervous guard taps her shoulder, and Savannah claws her way out of pure exhaustion. She blinks against the harsh lights, totally confused before reality hits her like a freight train. It is a harsh truth of life that our most vulnerable moments are almost always witnessed by the absolute worst possible people. It takes 2 solid seconds for her brain to reboot. Then she spots the dripping black coat and the absolute beast wearing it. Damien Cross, the exact same mob boss who just 3 weeks ago handed her a contract paying 6 times her normal rate. "Mr. Cross," she chokes out, her throat completely dry. "I really need to talk to you about the core authentication cluster." But Damien shuts her down instantly. "Throw her out," he barks at the guard. "Send her things later." Right behind him, Marcus lets this nasty, cruel little smirk slide onto his face. He checks the main screen, where a single rogue data packet is slipping through the international queue, moving to a sick beat only Marcus knows. Look, greed makes people do absolutely terrible things, but true betrayal is always an inside job. Savannah pushes herself out of the chair. Her legs are shaking like crazy, threatening to give out, but she stands her ground. She does not beg for her job or offer a single pathetic excuse. She just stares straight into the eyes of Damien Cross, and he glares right back. Neither of them realizes how much this tiny moment of stubborn pride is about to cost them both. On her way out, she stops by Eli Park, a terrified young tech fresh out of school. "Do not restart anything," she whispers. Eli nods, frozen in fear. Instantly, Marcus swoops in, dropping a heavy hand on the kid's shoulder like a farmer calming a spooked horse. In this crazy life, the people who act the most like your best friend are often the exact ones tying the rope around your neck. "She is gone, kid," Marcus says with this soft, fake sympathy. Right now, her warning means absolutely nothing to them. But guys, it is about to mean everything. Just a few hours from now, the entire hidden financial network of the Cross Syndicate is to start imploding in ways nobody in that room can even process. I cross the street. Damien is about to figure out that the woman he just tossed on the street was the only shield keeping his massive empire breathing for the last 48 hours. But Savannah is totally used to carrying heavy burdens in pure silence. She is only 27, and that heavy quiet she drags out. The door is a weight she has held for 2 awful years. Sometimes we blindly punish the exact people who are quietly saving us, simply because we refuse to understand the sacrifices they make behind our backs. Let's hit the rewind button for a second. Before all this underground mafia madness, Savannah was sitting at a very different desk in the FBI cybercrime division up in Chicago. She was an absolute genius analyst, the kind who spots the invisible threads everyone else misses. Her boss was actually lining her up for a massive promotion. Then came a sunny April afternoon that ruined everything. Her parents were driving up to celebrate her certification, but a massive truck blew through a red light just outside Gary, Indiana. Just like that, they were gone. In the back seat, her 6-year-old sister Lily barely survived with a shattered leg. Savannah dropped her entire glittering career that exact same day. Because at the end of the day, family is the only thing that truly matters. And when that call comes, you drop absolutely everything else to answer it. Listen to me closely here. You and I both know the sacrifices we make for the people we love. Savannah took sketchy freelance security gigs just to be home by 6 every night to take care of Lily. The money was worse, but time was the one currency she desperately needed. When a shady broker slid her a vague contract for a hotel chain upgrade in Chicago, Savannah only saw the massive paycheck, $180,000. That was exactly enough to cover all of Lily's physical therapy. She signed it completely blind. It was only on her first day, riding that private elevator deep below the street, that she realized this was no regular hotel. Desperation is a very dangerous master, forcing genuinely good people to walk through some incredibly dark doors just to survive. The big boss, Damien Cross, was literally waiting for her on the 47th floor. He did not even bother standing up when she walked in. "You have 2 choices," he told her with this terrifying low rumble. "Work for me and keep your mouth completely shut, or walk out right now and forget everything you just saw." Savannah pictured her little sister struggling to walk, and she chose to stay. What she inherited was an absolute dumpster fire of a network. It was just a chaotic mess of 32 fake companies and manual relays shuffling hundreds of millions of dollars around. Marcus Vale acted as her guide, all smooth and polite, but dragging around this ridiculously massive ego. Look, when your back is shoved completely against a brick wall, your pride disappears, and you just do whatever it takes to protect your own blood. But Savannah was no rookie. She watched Marcus like a hawk. She noticed how he nervously rushed past specific parts of the network, waving his hands and throwing out incredibly vague answers whenever she asked for hard details. She kept her mouth shut and filed every red flag away. At first, she figured a massive mob operation would naturally hide its dirty secrets from the IT girl. But Savannah was way too good at her job to fly blind. Purely out of habit, she quietly started mapping the dark corners of the system all by herself. Damien Cross completely ignored her existence after day 1, filtering every single order directly through Marcus. It is a funny thing about trust. The harder someone desperately tries to steer you away from a locked door, the more you realize you absolutely have to see what is hiding behind it. Later that exact same night, Savannah was sitting on the kitchen floor with her little sister. Lily was lining up her crayons by color, looking up with these big, deeply serious eyes. "Savvy," she asked out of nowhere, "do you work for good people or bad people?" Savannah pulled her close, deciding right then not to feed her a lie. "I work to keep you safe," she said gently. "That is all that matters." Lily thought about it, then handed over a ragged little stuffed rabbit named Mr. Biscuit. "Take him," Lily whispered. "He will watch out for you." Savannah hid that worn-out toy deep inside her work bag. True love always finds a way to anchor us in the absolute worst storms. Over the next few insane weeks, that silly little stuffed rabbit would be the only pure thing keeping her grounded in a dark underworld, totally full of liars. Flash forward to just 2 days before she collapsed at that control desk. Savannah noticed something totally sinister, hiding in the raw data. It was just a tiny cluster of rogue login requests, quietly slipping through the global queue. They were disguised to look like normal traffic. But that was the problem, they were way too perfect. The timing was entirely too rigid, the spacing way too exact. Real human beings make mistakes, they hesitate. This data had absolutely no soul. It had the cold, terrifying rhythm of a sniper watching you from the trees. She immediately pulled the logs from the past 72 hours, reading the code like a detective tracking a serial killer. Real danger rarely kicks down your front door. Most of the time, it just quietly slips through a cracked window while everyone else is busy looking the wrong way. We are nearing the edge of the cliff now. You and I, these digital ghosts, were not trying to crash the servers or cause errors. They were quietly learning the maze. Savannah tracked the poison backward, tracing it straight to a forgotten relay at the edge of the network. It was the exact same restricted area Marcus had rushed her past during her first week. From that tiny foothold, the intruder was mapping the interior, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. She reported the massive threat immediately. 20 minutes later, Marcus swaggered up to her desk. He looked at the hard, undeniable evidence she laid out. Instantly, his face froze into a perfectly calm, dead mask. Listen, the most terrifying monsters in this world do not roar at you. They just smile right in your face, while hiding a deadly knife behind their back. Tonight, you and I are diving into a massive Mafia disaster where one shady choice flips the whole board. Picture this. The network is getting hacked, and Marcus, the supposedly loyal manager, tells our girl Savannah to stand down. He claims the big boss, Mr. Cross, absolutely hates false alarms. Just, he says. But Savannah is not dumb. Being told to chill while the firewall is burning is a massive red flag. She gives Marcus that classic fake nod, playing the obedient worker. But here is a life lesson for you when the ship is sinking. Never hand your life jacket to anyone else. While Marcus thinks she is completely clueless, Savannah is secretly typing at light speed in the dark, quietly building an absolute digital fortress to save her own skin. The internal network was fighting her the whole way. She could not just yank the plug to clear the virus, because hundreds of millions of dollars of Mafia money flow through those servers every single week. She had to keep the system alive while performing open-heart surgery on the code. It was like patching a sinking boat during a hurricane. For 36 brutal hours, Savannah locked herself in that control room. The girl was surviving on stale vending machine chips and splashing freezing water on her face to stay awake. She only paused twice a day to call the neighbor babysitting her kid, little Lily. The kid kept asking when her mom was coming back. Savannah was literally leaning against a freezing wall, exhausted, promising her she was just fixing something huge. Her kid asked if her stuffed bear was helping, and Savannah forced a smile, swearing the toy was working hard. But guys, on the second night, right before dawn, she stumbled on to something absolutely terrifying. Hidden deep inside the main server was a sleeper virus. It was a digital landmine just waiting for someone to hit the standard system restart button. Here is a little wisdom for you. The biggest disasters always hide right in our normal routines. If anyone restarted that server, every firewall she just spent 2 days building would instantly vaporize. The vault doors would swing wide open, and the entire criminal empire would be robbed blind in exactly 7 minutes. Frantic, she started logging every detail, stuffing all her warnings into a highly secure hidden folder. She titled this critical file the Rhodes Handover, leaving a massive warning on the final page. Do not restart. This is a trap. Call me first. Her plan was to march up to the penthouse at dawn and hand it straight to the big boss, Damian Cross. No more shady middle managers. But at almost 5 a.m, her exhaustion finally won. She dropped her head onto the desk, resting her eyes for just 1 minute. You and I both know how one tired mistake can ruin your life. Fast forward to 6:12, and Damien steps off his private elevator. The man is pure intimidation, ignoring everyone and walking like a ghost carrying a mountain of regrets. He heads straight into his private office, shuts the door tight, and pours himself a tall glass of neat whiskey. It is 6:30 in the morning, and Damien is just staring out at the freezing lake, not even drinking his drink. See, 3 years ago, the Mafia life took his younger brother Evan. The kid was only 24, and Damien brought him into the underworld because he desperately needed someone he could actually trust. But Evan Gabriel in out on a bloody floor during a raid. That memory constantly eats Damien alive. The cops only got inside because the security guy fell asleep at his monitors. The scrims were blind for exactly 4 minutes. Always remember, this one tiny moment of dropping your guard can cost you everything. Those 4 short minutes were all the raid team needed to sneak right past the motion sensors and absolutely wreck Damien's entire world. By the time the crew realized they were under attack, bullets were tearing through the walls and Evan was already a goner. Afterward, Marcus ran the internal investigation. He handed Damien a clean report, swearing the guard just passed out from working too hard. No rats, no setup. Damien actually believed the lie and kept that file in his desk. But guys, get ready for the craziest plot twist. Marcus totally bribed that guard to look away. And when that same guard mysteriously drove his car off a bridge, 2 weeks later. Yeah, Marcus planned that hit too. Evan dying was not some tragic mistake. His blood was literally used as a twisted down payment. Marcus sold out the boss's little brother to a rival mob family just to level up his own greasy status in the underworld. Damien had no clue about the betrayal. He genuinely thought a sleeping guard killed his brother. So, standing right there at the funeral, he made a ruthless new rule. For 3 straight years, he never broke it. If you get caught sleeping on the job, you are instantly kicked out of the syndicate. 0 exceptions. It was not about security anymore. It was about honoring his dead brother. Now, back in the present, Damien is clutching his phone. He really wants to call the tech department and check Savannah's computer logs for the last few days. But being the top boss is incredibly lonely. If he shows even a tiny bit of mercy to a sleeping employee now, his rivals will smell weakness. He would spend the rest of his days defending his title against vultures trying to steal his crown. He puts the phone down, leaving the drink untouched. Marcus suddenly struts in, skipping the knock, and tosses a folder on the desk. He claims the servers are completely fine since Savannah was fired, bragging that he will personally manage the floor. Damien stares into space and asks how fast they can replace her. Marcus promises 2 days. Damien nods, but his gut is absolutely screaming at him. He remembers how terrified Savannah sounded. And Marcus's perfect story feels totally fake. But here is a fact: sometimes we ignore our sharpest instincts just to pretend we are still in control. Meanwhile, down in the tech dungeon, at 12:47, a clueless manager named Hutchins is staring at the main screen, watching the Mafia cash flow start to brutally freeze up. Every second risked millions in Mafia cash. Hutchins starts panicking and yells to restart the system. The rookie coder, Eli, freezes, reminding him that Savannah strictly ordered them never to touch that button. Hutchins aggressively snaps, yelling that she is fired and her rules mean nothing. Standing in the doorway, Marcus is watching his evil trap snap shut. This dude actually smirks, playing the supportive mentor while telling them to follow standard protocol. Eli hits the fatal button. For 30 seconds, the network turns completely green. Everything looks perfect, and the guys take a massive breath of relief. But listen to me, fake peace is always the setup for a total bloodbath. 3 short minutes later, the gates of hell finally swing wide open. Someone was laughing by the coffee machine. Just normal office vibes right before absolute destruction. At 12:51, the digital locks silently melted away. There was no crazy explosion or siren. The worst disasters in life are usually totally silent, sneaking up on you when you least expect it. The giant monitor casually flashed an error code, 1 frozen transfer, then 4, then 17. By 1254, the incredible digital fortress Savannah had ruined her mental health to construct violently imploded. The whole thing snapped like a cheap toothpick. Every single virtual door she locked down blew completely off the hinges. The hackers did not even need a crowbar. They casually walked straight into the Mafia's main bank vault without breaking a sweat. Stick with me here, because this is where the plot goes totally insane. In just minutes, $14 million literally evaporates into thin air. The cash is sucked out of the Mafia's secret stash and dumped into untraceable ghost accounts overseas. Suddenly, the room turns into an absolute nightmare of screaming alarms and flashing red lights. Hutchins is sweating bullets, begging for somebody to grab Marcus. And guys, Marcus bursts through those doors, giving an Oscar-worthy performance. He is fake panicking, acting like a hero rushing to put out the exact fire he just started. He slams his fists on the desk, demanding an emergency reset. But the reset instantly crashes. The system memory has been completely wiped clean, leaving all these tough guys totally doomed in the dark. The defense grid Savannah sacrificed her sleep to build was never officially saved. The blueprint was locked inside her brain, and that arrogant restart button burned it straight to the ground. The rookie, Eli, is visibly shaking as he clicks on a buried file. The Rhodes handover. Over the sound of blaring sirens, his voice cracks as he reads her final warning out loud. Do not restart. This is a trap. Call me first. The control room goes completely dead silent. You know that sinking feeling when you realize you just ruined your own life? That was this exact moment. Every single terrified eyeball slowly locks onto Hutchins, the boss who forced the fatal button push. But Marcus, realizing his evil master plan might get exposed, loudly shouts over the panic to keep his twisted game alive. Listen to this absolute madness. Marcus is barking that they do not need Savannah, swearing he can handle the system himself. But here is the massive plot twist. This snake planted the digital poison, but had zero clue how to bypass the new firewall she built. 10 minutes later, the Don himself, Damien Cross, walks in looking like the Grim Reaper. He demands the damage report. Hutchins chokes out that they are down 14 million and bleeding 2 million a minute. Damien radiates pure death. He asks who can fix it, and the entire Mafia crew completely freezes. Little Eli stutters out that only Savannah understands the new architecture. Damien slowly turns his dead stare straight onto Marcus. It just goes to show you that blind arrogance is always the absolute fastest way to dig your own grave. Let's break down this insane scene together. Marcus is sweating bullets, begging the boss for more time. But Damien already knows the clock hit 0. He steps up to the monitors and reads Savannah's files. The tension in his jaw is unreal. Guys, she was not just fixing some random glitch. She had been standing alone for 48 hours, blocking a massive cyber attack that his top enforcers completely missed. Damien dials her number. 3 heavy rings, then pure silence. Meanwhile, Marcus slinks back into the shadows like a total coward and shoots off a burner text saying she is officially locked out of the system. It is a brutally grabbed his shirt. It is a brutally honest reminder that the people trying the hardest to look loyal are usually the ones holding a dagger right behind your back. Execute Plan B. That snake Marcus sends the kill order straight to the hitman, Silas Blackwood. Damien snaps into action, yelling for his driver to pull the car around right now. They are heading straight to Savannah's apartment. Marcus actually has the nerve to step in, trying to frame her as a threat and offering to send his own crew. Damien does not even look at him. He drops the coldest line ever, stating she is not the danger. He is. He leaves Marcus standing there stewing in pure malice. Miles away, Savannah is totally traumatized. She is riding home, completely numb to the world, just listening to her own heart, pounding out in her chest in the back of the car. Honestly, sometimes the world forces you to completely break down just so you can learn how to build your life back up from absolute scratch. Savannah is desperately spamming calls to Rebecca from the car, but it goes straight to voicemail. 5 agonizing minutes pass, and nothing but that robotic voice. She finally gets back to her tiny, spotless apartment. We all know the vibe. Sometimes keeping your house ridiculously clean is the only way to pretend your life is not completely imploding. As soon as she walks in, her little sister Lily tackles her with a massive hug. Their older neighbor Nora takes one single look at Savannah's shattered face and instantly knows the deal. She does not pry or ask any annoying questions. She just leaves some homemade soup and promises to return later. It is a massive lesson in basic empathy. Sometimes the absolute greatest support you can offer a broken person is just shutting up and giving them some quiet space to breathe. Savannah hits the shower completely ice cold. She needs the brutal shock just to stay grounded right now. Afterward, she crashes on the sofa, utterly drained. Little Lily climbs up and tucks a blanket around her, like it is a crucial, top-secret mission. Fast forward 40 minutes, and the doorbell absolutely shatters the peace. Savannah jumps up, assuming the neighbor is back early, but when she checks the peephole, her blood runs freezing cold. Two massive goons in heavy black trench coats are standing outside. The bigger guy has this totally fake, practiced smile plastered on his face. She opens the door just a tiny crack, and he drops her name with an incredibly creepy, forced warmth. Always trust your instincts. If a stranger's vibe feels completely off, it almost always means absolute danger is knocking at your front door. The guy introduces himself as Victor, claiming he represents some elite private fund. He casually mentions her getting fired, acting like her top-tier hacker skills are being wasted. Savannah's survival instincts kick in instantly, and she tries to slam the door. But boom, Victor jams his massive boot into the frame. He straight up offers her $500,000 to leak details about the syndicate's work. She fires back about her non-disclosure agreement and tells them to leave. Victor just laughs, saying a contract with mobsters means literally nothing. Then, the absolute worst thing possible happens. Little Lily yells from the hallway to ask who is there. Victor's eyes instantly go dead cold, realizing a child is inside. Never expose your blind spots to a predator. The second they see what you care about, they will use it to break you. In a literal split second, Savannah goes into full survival mode. She throws her weight forward, slams that heavy door shut, and aggressively throws both deadbolts. She grabs Lily and they sprint straight to the bathroom. Get this, that room is basically a hidden panic room. Savannah installed a reinforced metal doorframe months ago, right after a major tragedy. It is crazy how we always build up these massive protective walls only after the worst damage is already done, just praying we do not get broken again. Outside, the polite knocking turns into absolute, violent hammering on the wood. A muffled voice orders the goons to switch to option 2. Savannah's heart drops to the floor as the horrifying metallic scraping of a lockpick echoes loudly through the apartment. They are picking the lock. Savannah hugs Lily tightly in the dark. The brave little kid is shaking uncontrollably, but refuses to shed a tear. She whispers to ask where her toy is. But Savannah hits pure panic mode. She left her encrypted laptop bag right on the living room couch. Suddenly, the front door violently splinters open. 2 deafening gunshots completely rock the tiny apartment, followed by the most terrifying, heavy silence imaginable. Then, the slow, measured thud of footsteps approaches the bathroom. A deep, icy voice calls out, identifying himself as Damien Cross. Savannah slowly clicks the deadbolt open. Listen, true rescue almost never shows up as a fairy tale knight in shining armor. Sometimes your only savior is a ruthless mob boss wearing a dark trench coat perfectly stained with the fresh blood of your absolute worst enemies. Tonight, you and I are stepping right into an absolute bloodbath. The tiny apartment literally reeks of copper and fresh betrayal. Damien is standing there like a statue, a suppressed weapon resting coldly in his grip. The 2 hitmen are completely ruined near the doorway, and Damien casually kicks gun away from the one still twitching. His dead eyes find Savannah, then drop down to little Lily, clinging to her leg. For one microscopic second, actual raw emotion cracks through the Don's granite face, but he instantly buries it. It is human nature to lock away our softest parts the second the world turns violent. Savannah's voice totally cracks, asking if he just came back for the missing money. Damien sharply orders her to move out. He does not care about a single dime. Outside, police sirens start wailing loudly in the distance. This part is totally wild. Lily steps right up to this terrifying giant in a blood-soaked coat and actually tugs his sleeve. She tilts her head and asks the ultimate question everyone else is too terrified to say. Are you a good person or a bad one? Damien is left totally speechless. Let's be real here. The fine line between a noble hero and an absolute monster is entirely a matter of perspective. Down in the damp alley, their getaway ride is idling in the shadows. Anton, an ex-military tank who has guarded Damien for 15 years, sits behind the wheel of a blacked-out SUV. He takes one look at the fresh blood dripping off his boss, gives a grim nod, and slams the car into drive. In the back seat, Lily clutches her stuffed rabbit for dear life, while Savannah fiercely guards her encrypted laptop. In the back of the speeding SUV, the massive adrenaline rush finally wears off. Savannah is crashing hard, her pale hands shaking violently on her knees. It is crazy how we can hold ourselves together through absolute chaos, only to totally break down the second we reach safety. She asks Damien the million-dollar question. Why is he rescuing her just hours after firing her? Damien keeps his cold eyes glued to the midnight highway. He finally chokes down his massive pride and admits she was entirely right. The syndicate's network is actively bleeding out, down 14 million and dropping fast. Savannah just closes her eyes, takes one deep breath, and lets all the lingering panic completely leave her system. When she opens them again, the fear is totally gone. Her hands are completely steady, and she is ready to fight back. Stick with me here, because the tension in this car is absolutely unreal. Savannah snaps back into focus, demanding a secure terminal with root access. Sitting between them, little Lily tilts her head and asks if the blood-covered man is her sister's boss. Savannah mutters that he used to be. Then, this totally fearless 6-year-old turns her laser focus right onto Damien. She looks past his terrifying aura and demands to know if he was actually nice to her sister. Damien Cross has stared down literal assassins without blinking, but against a tiny kid, asking about basic decency. He is completely paralyzed. It proves that the most innocent questions always expose your darkest flaws. The Mafia Don swallows hard and whispers as he is trying. Lily just stares him down, judging his soul with the finality of a ruthless courtroom judge. This kid does not back down for a second. She looks this terrifying mob boss dead in the eye and tells him that merely trying is not enough. He actually has to do the right thing. It is a massive reminder that your intentions mean absolutely nothing if your actions do not back them up. Savannah lets out a sound halfway between a laugh and a complete breakdown. They finally arrive at Damien's secret penthouse, a sprawling glass fortress high up on the 38th floor. He awkwardly leads little Lily to a guest room. She paces around like a tiny detective, checks the view, and drops her final verdict. She likes the space, but she is still absolutely furious. He fired her sister. She straight up demands a real apology, and Damien, the ruthless, untouchable crime lord, just lowers his heavy head, accepts his total defeat, and quietly agrees. Picture this, guys. The silence in that office is so heavy, you could cut it with a knife. Damien slides over a massive workstation and punches in the codes to his entire empire. Savannah drops into the chair, fingers absolutely flying like she is hacking the Matrix. Boom! She finds the footprints in seconds. A supervisor ordered the restart, but get this, Marcus Vale approved it. Savannah literally freezes. The absolute worst plot twist clicks in her brain. Vale let the breach happen. He is a traitor. But here is a simple life lesson for you paranoia. Without hard proof is just poison. You cannot accuse a mafia boss right-hand man without receipts. She swallows the dread, keeps her mouth totally shut, and forces her hands back to the keyboard to find the real truth. Savannah is playing it incredibly smart, refusing to drop a name without hard evidence. She tells the boss she needs to stop the hack first, then delivers the coldest warning ever: trust, literally, nobody. Damien just gives a grim nod and leaves her to work. He wanders to the guest room, watching little Lily whisper to her stuffed rabbit. Suddenly, a massive wave of guilt hits him. He remembers Luca, the kid who stood there shaking with a gun. The craziest twist: the guy who ordered the hit on his family was the exact kid he protected on the streets. He raised his own worst enemy. The life lesson here is brutal but true. Your past mistakes always catch up to you. You can never truly outrun your deepest sins. They just wait in the dark, patiently plotting your downfall. For 3 straight hours, the tension in that room is absolutely insane. Savannah does not say a word, only whispering these ice-cold commands to the screen. You and I both know that zone, right? Where throwing yourself into work is the only thing keeping a total panic attack away. Out of nowhere, Damien slides a perfect espresso right next to her hand. She barely notices until she feels the hot cup. It is completely wild to realize a mafia boss, wearing a jacket covered in fresh blood, can make such a delicate cup of coffee. Since she has no idea how to process that crazy contradiction, she just drinks it. Meanwhile, Damien gets busy building a completely hidden network. She hands him 3 names, but 2 are total strangers. Quick lesson: never put your faith in people you do not know. The 3rd name on her list is Eli Park, literally the only guy who stepped up when everything hit the fan. Savannah trusts him to hold down their absolute last line of defense. She runs through her checklist like a total boss. First move: she traps all the shady outbound connections. You never want to let the bad guys know they are being watched. Then she builds a fake pathway to track exactly where that $14 million went. After setting up a backup, she changes 23 different security locks. But boom, right on the 17th lock, she stops dead. There is something incredibly dark hiding inside the code. She keeps quiet, though. The lesson is simple: when you spot a trap, do not scream. Just figure out exactly how to disarm it first. When Savannah finally tracks down the digital backdoor, it has a massive red flag attached. It is an inside job, the absolute worst kind of betrayal. She quietly copies the data into a hidden file, refusing to check who did it just yet. For 3 entire hours, Damien stands behind her like a literal statue. He only steps away once for a super-secretive phone call, murmuring so low she cannot hear a single word. When the massive hack is finally stopped, Savannah collapses back into her chair. The total exhaustion hits her like a freight train, taking her first real breath all day. Damien quietly slides a cold glass of water onto the desk and tells her to drink. Take a simple lesson from this. Some see the absolute best way to support someone is just staying quiet and giving them what they need. Damien asks the golden question: why did she run straight home instead of hiding? Savannah looks right through him. She fully thought his mob enforcers were coming to take her out, and she had to save her sister Lily. Here is a vital life lesson for you. Once trust is completely shattered, every single shadow starts looking like an enemy. Damien does not even get mad. He swears he never would have hurt her, but Savannah claps right back, reminding him he fired her in a heartbeat. The big boss just sinks into his chair, looking incredibly defeated. He admits she is right and finally drops his tough guy act. He starts talking about his brother Evan, a 24-year-old kid who just wanted to be an architect. He describes a massive tragedy that completely destroyed his entire world. Damien sounds completely hollow, talking about a guard who fell asleep for just 4 minutes. But those 4 minutes let the enemy slip in and take his brother's life. Right there at the funeral, Damien made a totally ruthless rule. If you sleep on the job, you are gone forever. No second chances. Savannah finally gets it. He was not being a cold monster earlier. It was just pure grief disguised as a strict business rule. It does not excuse his mafia lifestyle, but it makes him human. She asks what happens next, and he looks her dead in the eye, begging her to work for him. But Savannah is a total boss and stands her ground. The big life lesson? Never ever compromise your family's safety for a paycheck. She absolutely refuses to drag her little sister into this dark criminal underworld. Damien starts making massive promises to keep her away from the actual mob violence. He offers remote work, 24/7 security, and even promises to fund a totally legal tech company for her later. Savannah just lets the room stay quiet. She looks over at her little sister sleeping peacefully with that stuffed rabbit. Her final choice has absolutely nothing to do with this guy's dirty money. It is all about those 2 dead hitmen bleeding out on her carpet earlier. Here is a serious life lesson. Sometimes you must align with a lesser evil just to survive. It is brutal survival math. This enemy Blackwood is a literal monster who will never stop. If Damien loses his syndicate, Blackwood will hunt Savannah and her sister to the absolute ends of the earth. The absolute reality of the situation hits her hard. She and Lily are only safe as long as the mob boss stays alive to block the wolves. Savannah looks at him and says she will stay, but her voice is completely pure steel. She sets her own terms. She grabs a notepad and writes down 3 hardcore boundaries. Rule 1, Lily never finds out about the Mafia stuff. To her, Damien is just a boring hotel guy. Rule 2, 0 violence anywhere near them. Keep the ugly stuff in the shadows. Rule 3, she can quit whenever she wants with just 1 week of notice. No invisible strings attached. The life lesson here? Never enter a dangerous deal without setting rock-solid boundaries first. Damien just stares at the paper, reading her demands over and over. The boss does not even argue a single word. Damien just takes the pen and signs his name. You and I have to appreciate the insane irony. Here, a guy who was literally taking out enemies 6 hours ago is now signing a contract like a corporate lawyer. Damien adds just 1 rule of his own. If she ever sees a threat, she has to tell him immediately. No secrets whatsoever. Savannah looks into his eyes and sees a broken man whose brother died just because people stayed quiet. She agrees. Keep this life lesson in mind. Secrets in a crisis will get you destroyed. Meanwhile, miles away on the freezing side of the city, Marcus Vale is sitting in a dark car. He just got a horrifying phone call. 2 of his secret operatives are dead, and 1 is locked up. The absolute drama of it all. When Marcus hears that Savannah was rescued by the syndicate, he does not even flinch. He has that terrifying, icy calm of a villain who knows his time is running out. He realizes the walls are closing in fast. It is not because Savannah snitched, but because a genius like her is definitely going to find the digital fingerprints he left behind. The clock is loudly ticking. He grabs a burner phone and calls his secret boss. He admits Savannah is back under Damien's protection and practically begs for more time to finish destroying the Mafia from the inside. The voice gives him exactly 24 hours. Here is a solid life lesson when you play dangerous games. The deadline is always a matter of life and death. He has 1 day to win, or he is completely done for. The phone call just drops dead, leaving Marcus sitting alone in his freezing car. He sits there, letting his massive betrayal really sink in. Then he opens this super secret app on his phone, showing a little green dot blinking on the map. It is a tracker he literally planted on Damien's car 6 months ago. Talk about playing the long game. But he is not stupid enough to attack the boss head-on. Instead, he hacks into the luxury tower's security system, using an old back door. He starts planting these tiny little glitches like a total spider, building a web. Just a quick 10-second blackout on the camera feeds every few minutes. The life lesson? Huge disasters always start with the tiniest cracks in the foundation. He is slowly blinding the guards without them even noticing. Marcus adds a sneaky glitch to the hallway sensors. It is such a small error that a tired security guard would just ignore it. But later, those tiny blind spots are going to create a perfect invisible path for the hitmen. Back up on the 38th floor, little Lily is fast asleep, still hugging that bunny. Savannah is just staring out the window. Her hands finally stopped shaking, but only because she is totally out of adrenaline. Damien walks up, keeping his distance, and tells her she has not slept in 3 days. 4. She corrects him like a boss. He says her room is ready and promises Anton will guard the door. She looks right at him and asks if he actually trusts his men. Damien just says he trusts Anton, but everyone else is under review. Lesson here? Trust is earned, not given. Look at this absolute madness. Savannah marches to the hallway and stops. "Mr. Cross," she whispers, but this literal mafia boss gently corrects her, telling her to use his first name, Damien. "Stick with me here, because this is where the drama spikes." She demands an apology from the very guy holding her life in his hands. And boom, the plot twist hits. The cold crime lord drops his icy stare, looking completely shattered. He admits his massive ego almost burned their whole world down. He practically begs for one more chance. Savannah gives a single nod, dipping into the bedroom and shutting the door. Damien is left standing in the dark, staring through the glass at tiny Lily sleeping. It is a wild reminder that even the most terrifying people eventually have to swallow their pride when they realize what truly matters in life. A massive reality check just slammed into Damien. For the first time since his brother was taken out, this undisputed kingpin actually has something precious to lose. Having a weak spot is a ticking time bomb in the underworld. For 3 stressful days, they are totally locked down. Savannah goes full hacker mode, turning his flashy penthouse office into an absolute beast of a command center. She is crushing his enemies' digital networks like tiny bugs. Meanwhile, Damien sneaks out every morning before 8, but keeps rushing back way earlier than a mafia boss ever should. He never drops a single excuse for running back home so fast. And Savannah just listens to his heavy boots echoing down the hall without asking questions. Here is the truth, folks. Home is not a building. It is whoever makes you feel completely safe when the world outside is burning to the ground. Picture this insane setup. A tiny kid who should be learning to color is literally being trained to survive an underworld hit. Savannah refuses to send Lily to a normal school because the stakes are way too massive. The dining table becomes a total covert operations classroom. They do basic math, but then they play a game Lily innocently calls looking. Guys, Savannah is quietly building a miniature security analyst right in the kitchen. By the second night, Damien leans against the counter with his dark coffee, watching this wild dynamic unfold. Savannah asks the kid what changed in the room, and Lily spots a freshly dusted lamp with the serious eyes of a veteran spy. It is absolutely heartbreaking when you stop to think about it. Innocence is always the first casualty when you are forced to trade a normal childhood just to keep the people you care about breathing. The ultimate rule in this house: if you see a new detail, you stop and ask why. Later that night, after Lily finally tucks her rabbit into bed, the tension in the room skyrockets. Damien locks his dark eyes on Savannah and calls her out, saying she is straight up training the kid for war. But Savannah has absolutely zero chill. She snaps back that the real world shows zero mercy to anyone walking around blind. Damien knows that dark truth better than anyone. He brings up her old federal hacker days, the terrible stuff she witnessed. Then, the emotional armor completely shatters. She tells him about the brutal truck crash that took her parents in a literal split second. Pain is a wild thing, you know? It has this crazy, beautiful way of forcing 2 total strangers to bond and find understanding in the darkest moments of their entire lives. Damien does not even try to stop at her emotional floodgates. He just sits there, quietly admitting he understands the pain, but the grief is burning way too hot inside her. Savannah reveals the darkest plot twist of her past, about her young brother bleeding out on concrete because she arrived exactly 10 minutes too late. In that raw, heavy moment, she stops seeing a lethal mobster and finally sees the broken soul hiding under his expensive suit. Just before the sadness totally wrecks them both, Lily bursts into the room. It is the craziest timing, but actually the greatest save ever. The kid holds up a piece of drawing paper, like it is the Holy Grail. On it are 4 little crayon figures: a tall man, a blonde hacker, a little girl, and a gray rabbit. Even in the absolute deepest shadows, the smallest act of pure love can pull you right back into the light. Look at this pure sweetness happening right in the middle of a mob war. 4 uneven crayon figures standing together against the whole world. Lily proudly names the squad, claiming they are a totally unstoppable team. Damien just stares at the paper, and the room goes dead silent for what feels like hours. Savannah is sweating bullets, her heart hammering in her chest. Then, this absolute unit of a mafia boss stands up and swears he will hang her artwork right inside his command center. Lily gasps with pure joy and runs off to make more art. Savannah whispers to him, saying he does not need to fake it. But Damien completely shatters her defenses, staring right into her soul, and says he actually wants to. You and I know how incredibly rare it is for a hardened, brutal heart to finally crack open and let the warmth back in. The tension here is literally off the charts right now. Damien looks over his coffee, dropping his voice to a super vulnerable tone. He asks the ultimate question. If the Mafia was completely wiped out tomorrow, would she ever look at him as just a normal guy? Savannah lets the silence hang before admitting she honestly does not know, but she refuses to close the door on him. That right there is a massive spark of hope. But in the criminal underworld, hope gets you killed. Fast forward to exactly 3 minutes past 1 in the morning, and boom, a hidden motion sensor trips outside. Anton flies to the door like a human shield, but the hallway is a total ghost town. The only thing left behind is a brutal, jagged letter X carved into the marble floor, with a single threatening note right in the center. The moment you finally drop your guard, the enemy always strikes. Anton snatches up the paper, and the message is straight up chilling. 4 angry block letters, promising they will never be safe. By sunrise, the luxury penthouse has transformed into an absolute war zone. Damien is looking ready to end someone, flanked by his most ruthless enforcers. They pull up the security tapes, and there he is, a ghost in a maintenance suit creeping through the halls. This guy is a total professional, completely dodging the 3 main cameras like a ninja. But here is the fatal flaw of every arrogant villain. We always overlook the tiniest details when our egos convince us we are totally invincible. This mastermind completely missed a tiny pinhole camera, hidden inside a fire alarm. For just a split second, the lens catches the intruder and his sharp profile as he sneaks away. One tiny mistake is all it takes to bring down an entire criminal empire. A split second is usually never enough to bust a suspect. But when you are dealing with a top-tier hacker like Savannah, it is game over. Damien demands a name, but Savannah keeps her mouth totally shut. She slows the tape down to a crawl, zeroing in on the guy in his right shoulder. There is this weird, tiny twitch every single time he crosses a doorframe. It is a massive tell, completely unique to him. She refuses to drop the name out loud. She knows that naming the wrong target in a mafia war means innocent people get taken out, while the real rats escape. That is the terrifying reality of mob life. Instead of guessing, she dumps years of the syndicate security footage into an insane, military-grade gate analysis program she kept from her federal days. She is going to catch this snake using cold, hard facts instead of reckless emotions. The hacker software needs a solid day to chew through 200 mobster profiles. But you think a legendary boss like Damien is just going to sit around watching a loading bar? No way! He instantly doubles the heavy muscle on every single exit. By the afternoon, the cabin fever is getting intensely toxic. Little Lily has not seen the sun in a week, and she is not even complaining, which honestly makes it a million times more tragic. Savannah tells Damien the hard truth. When kids start folding their trauma into quiet little boxes, you have to break the cycle immediately. Against every single survival instinct in his body, the mob boss caves. He picks a flashy, loud ice cream parlor right on the busy pier. It is a massive risk, but blending into a huge crowd is sometimes the smartest shield. Sometimes, you just have to risk it all for the people you love. By the time Anton parks their armored truck, 3 undercover enforcers are already blending into the crowd like absolute phantoms. Lily eats her strawberry ice cream, looking dead serious as she announces her stuffed rabbit is currently training to be a junior bodyguard. It is the most precious, heartbreaking thing ever. But then, the ultimate plot twist drops. Damien, the ruthless punisher, actually softens his terrifying voice. He starts telling her a fairy tale about a brave rabbit saving a massive giant from a bloodthirsty wolf. Guys, this is a memory he buried under 30 years of Mafia violence, a story his own mom told him when he was just 6 years old. The nostalgia hits him like a freight train. It just proves that no matter how much darkness you walk through, the purest memories completely refuse to die, just waiting for the right moment to surface. Savannah is literally watching him from the bench, and for the first time, the terrifying mob boss totally melts away. Left behind is just a broken dude. On the slow drive back, the insane tension drops enough for little Lily to completely pass out. Savannah sits up front until Damien finally breaks the silence. Bro's voice is heavy, with absolute exhaustion. He drops a massive lore bomb. He lost his mom at 8, and his dad forged him into a brutal hitman before dying too. 37 years old, and he's buried everyone he ever loved. Savannah softly pushes back, saying her dead parents are her compass, not an anchor. Even Anton politely looks away. Listen, guys, it just goes to show you the people walking around with the hardest armor are usually carrying the absolute heaviest grief. The armored beast of a car slips under the tower into their underground garage. The second those heavy doors click open, Anton throws his hand up, palm flat. Instant freeze, bro. Down on that fancy carpet stretching to the elevator, there's a super faint dusting of ash. Size 11 footprints, and they definitely aren't theirs. Damien's heavy pistol is out and leveled before his boots even hit the concrete. He shoves Savannah and the kid behind him, clearing the angles like an absolute machine. They breach the penthouse, but the place is a total ghost town. Empty. But right in the middle of the glass table, a cheap plastic burner phone. The second Damien steps in, the thing starts ringing. He answers, only to hear this flat, creepy digital voice. It just goes to show that your safe space is an absolute illusion when the demons from your past already have the keys. This mechanical voice is crawling through the speaker, dripping with some serious villain energy. It straight up threatens that pretty Miss Rhodes and the little sister are going to vanish within a week. The demand is insanely simple. Cough up the entire digital network, or the girls are done for. The voice twists the knife, reminding Damien that he's the one who dragged them into this massive mess. Click. The line goes dead. Damien is just staring at this useless plastic phone, guilt eating him alive. Savannah is already clutching the sleeping kid, bracing for absolute disaster. Damien shoots a look at Anton and drops the final order. They re-abandoning the fortress right now. They bolt 3 hours north into the middle of nowhere. It proves that sometimes the only way to win a rigged game is to completely flip the board and run. So check this out. This hidden sanctuary actually used to belong to Damien's dad. It's this wild timber house, sitting next to a creepy old barn and a massive pond. When Lily steps out of the car, she is absolutely shook. You and I totally take nature for granted, but imagine a city kid seeing a wide-open horizon for the first time. Within 20 minutes, the city trauma starts melting off her. She's out by the fence, introducing her stuffed bunny to a cow. Wholesome, right? But upstairs, Savannah is straight up prepping for World War III. She says throwing together a command center with satellite links and hidden drives. The quiet country vibe is a total trap, guys. The storm is brewing. Honestly, it's a solid life lesson. The most beautiful, peaceful moments usually happen right before everything absolutely hits the fan. Welcome to the midnight hour. We've all been there, staring into the dark and wondering who's actually on our side. Damien pulls in 6 dudes from Anton's inner circle, completely hiding their real, violent agenda. He tells Lily they just farmhands, a cute little lie that lasts maybe 4 hours. Later, Savannah and Damien are chilling on the porch. The air smells like fresh hay. The sky just blasted with stars. Day admits he has seen a night like this since his brother Evan was alive. He finally opens up about the guy, a dude who should have been an architect, but got totally wrecked by the mob life. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but sometimes the hardest truth in life is realizing that someone pulling close is exactly what ends up destroying them. Bro is literally trauma dumping his biggest failure into the night guy. He couldn't save Evan, and he swears on his life he'll never let death touch anyone who belongs to him again. Savannah just looks at him, totally dropping her guard, and softly reminds him that she and the kid don't actually belong to him. He knows, but he's gonna protect them anyway. This massive, heavy silence just wraps around them. Seeing her freezing, he tosses his giant coat over her shoulders, and she actually lets it stay. Walking back to her setup, Savannah gets hit with a crazy realization. He isn't just her scary boss anymore. He's a deeply broken guy whose absolute worst scars line up perfectly with hers. It's wild, but it teaches us something real. We don't connect over being perfect. We bond over the shared trauma we hide from the world. The computers finally spit out the truth right around 4 a.m, and it's an absolute bombshell. Savannah is white, knuckling her coffee, staring at the screen in pure horror. Marcus Vale, the literal mentor they trusted with their lives. She cross-checks the digital footprint from the ambush against the mob's deepest, most secure vaults. Flawless match. She digs deeper and realizes this betrayal started 3 whole months ago, way before she even entered this crazy game. She just sits there in the glowing dark, absolutely paralyzed by the shock. You really hate to see it, guys, but here is the coldest lesson life will ever teach you. The knife sticking out of your back is almost always held by the exact same person you happily invited to sit at your dinner table. The room is still drowning in the dark, while a super depressing gray dawn starts creeping over the barn. Savannah has the undeniable receipts now. This isn't just some wild hunch. It's hard, cold proof that the dude who built Damien's empire is a total snake. Now she has the horrible job of dropping this nuke on Damien. But later that day, the crazy tension actually breaks when Damien finds this dusty old bow and sets up a target for Lily. Lily makes a bet. If she hits the mark, she gets to teach the big scary hitman how to draw. Hearing that, Damien actually smiles. A legit, real, unguarded smile. It's this totally bizarre but beautiful fact of life. Sometimes the purest, softest moments of happiness manage to bloom right on the terrifying edge of our darkest, most explosive storms. Savannah is just standing on the porch with her coffee, watching this guy smile, and her chest gets incredibly tight. It's that weird ache where you realize an emotional door just flew open, and you have zero idea how to close it. But in a mob story, peace is basically illegal. Late into the second night, Anton's screen lights up with a silent alarm. A tricked-out spy drone is creeping through the trees like a literal ghost. Anton doesn't even blink. He just blasts it out of the sky with an electromagnetic pulse. The thing face plants into the freezing dirt. But the camera is still broadcasting their exact location to the enemy. Damien glares at the busted plastic, totally aware the game is up. It sets a harsh reality check for all of us. No matter how far off the grid you run, your past is incredibly good at tracking your exact coordinates. Savannah looks Damien dead in the eye, and her blood is literally freezing over. It is officially time to nuke this man's entire reality. The morning sun is bleeding through the blinds as she slaps the horrible truth right down on the desk. We are talking undeniable files, digital fingerprints, and literal video proof of Marcus Vale completely selling them out months ago. She doesn't sugarcoat it, dropping the absolute horror exactly like she was trained to do, totally cold, totally analytical. Stick with me here, because this is brutal to watch. But here is the thing about ripping off a bandage. If you don't do it fast, and with absolute brutal honesty, the wound is just going to fester and take you out anyway. You have to face the ugly truth head on, no matter how much it burns. Picture this, listeners. The pale dawn is creeping over the barn, and Savannah is just staring out the glass, letting this absolutely suffocating silence stretch. Damien's voice finally cracks the quiet, sounding like literal gravel. He says he has Sunday dinner with Marcus for 3 years. The night his brother died, Marcus was the one who covered it up and called it exhaustion. The puzzle pieces violently snap together in Savannah's brain. He made you fire me, she whispers, because weaponized your absolute worst trauma. Damien just nods, gripping a pen until it literally snaps in half. Finding out your father figure engineered your worst nightmares. Absolute agony. He growls that he is taking Marcus out today. Savannah just stands her ground and says no. It shows you that true strength isn't about snapping. It's about holding the line. You and I know revenge is a raging fire that screams to be fed right this second. But Savannah is playing chess, not checkers. If he goes in guns blazing, Blackwood's entire army will crush them. She tells him to play dead and let Marcus think he's still winning. She even offers herself and Lily as literal bait. Damien completely freezes. His mob boss instincts are screaming at him to drive to the city and obliterate the guy who sat at his Sunday table. But he chokes down the rage and nods. For the next 18 hours, Savannah goes full hacker mode. She rewrites the crashed drone's brain, feeding it fake coordinates to a random grain silo 20 miles away. It's brilliant. Let this be a lesson, guys. When anger tells you to explode, the smartest play is usually to take a breath and build a much better trap. Listen to this setup, guys. This abandoned silo was the ultimate trap. Dead quiet and completely hollow. Damien is out here playing absolute chess, hiding 12 heavy hitters in the shadows by dusk. Come dawn, Victor rolls up with a 6-man squad, still limping from the last brawl. But plot twist, where is Marcus? The old man completely ghosted. The ambush pops off, and it is a wrap in 90 seconds flat. 2 hitmen drop permanently, 4 surrender, and Victor catches a bullet in the thigh before he even touches his piece. Damien drags him off to a black site for a deeply unfriendly chat. Meanwhile, Savannah stays miles away, just sweating over the radio updates. 2 brutal hours later, Victor finally cracks. The lesson? Never walk into a quiet room without checking the corners. Victor folded like a cheap lawn chair to save his own skin. He completely burned the Milwaukee safe house and spilled all the intel Marcus gave him. But then he drops a bombshell that will literally make your stomach turn. The reason Marcus bailed on the raid? He was out hunting down little Lily. The exact same guy who used to tuck Damien into bed is now targeting a child just to score points with the mob bosses. Talk about the ultimate backstab. The second Anton radios that name, Damien calls Savannah, absolutely panicking. He warns her that Marcus is heading straight for the real farm, a secret location Blackwood knows nothing about. At that exact second, Savannah is just standing in the dusty hay barn, holding Lily by the hand. It just goes to show, the people you trust the most are often the ones holding the knife. You and I both know Savannah is an absolute unit, and she proves it right here. Her voice stays ice cold as she takes the warning. Outside, Anton and the guards instantly lock down the patrol loop. But it is way too late. Marcus is already on the property. How? Because Damien's own dad showed Marcus a hidden deer trail 20 years ago. A total blind spot no one else knew about. The guy is literally using family history to break in. At exactly 4:26 in the morning, the power gets totally cut. The farm goes pitch black, and the alarms flatline. Savannah does not even flinch. Her old FBI survival instincts kick in instantly, acting way before her brain even fully processes the dark. The big takeaway? Your past will always come back to haunt you, so you better be ready when the lights finally go out. Savannah immediately goes into full mom bear mode, shoving Lily down hard behind a solid wall of hay. She draws her Glock 19, dropping super low against the scratchy twine. Then comes the absolute worst sound, the heavy boots of a killer, making the old barn floor groan. Sartons are in the pitch black. Savannah fires back, demanding to know if he killed Evan. The silence is so heavy, and then Marcus drops the coldest line ever, admitting he just set it up and paid the bill. Down in the dirt, Lily lets out this tiny, terrified whisper for Savannah. Marcus instantly snaps toward the kid. Savannah fires completely blind, but totally misses. Marcus shoots back, and the hot lead rips right across the outside of her left arm. Listen, no matter how wild things get, you always protect the innocent people first. The hit completely throws Savannah sideways. Before she can even bring her weapon up, Marcus just blows right past her. He grabs little Lily by the arm and presses his gun straight to the kid's head. You and I both know there is absolutely nothing scarier than watching a total monster threaten a child. But then, a massive crack echoes through the barn. Marcus freezes, a dark hole right between his eyes, and he drops into the dirt like a rag doll. Up in the loft, Anton is just standing there, silently lowering a smoking rifle. Talk about a clutch save. Savannah scrambles over, clutching Lily tight to her chest. The poor kid had been totally silent, but now she is just sobbing. Savannah rocks her fiercely, promising she is right there. An hour later, Damien's truck comes flying into the yard. True heroes show up exactly when it counts. Damien is running like an absolute madman across the yard and burst and straight into the barn. He finds Savannah slumped in the straw, tying off her bleeding arm with a piece of shirt using her teeth. Total boss energy right there. Little Lily is curled in her lap, completely silent, clutching a stuffed toy for dear life. Damien just drops to his knees in the dirt. He does not ask what went down. He does not say a single word. He just wraps his arms around both of them, pulling them tight against his chest. Guys, this is the very first time this broken dude has genuinely held anyone since his brother passed away. The only sound in the barn is Lily crying into his neck, softly calling him Mr. Cross. It is a heavy reminder that even the toughest people out there need a safe place to land when the world falls apart. Picture this scene for me, guys. We have all seen what endless action does to a person, but the quiet aftermath is what really hits hard. Lily tells Damien that she knows a hug makes him feel better, and his voice just completely cracks when he agrees with her. It is so raw, even Savannah is tearing up while staring at the barn roof. Meanwhile, Marcus is laid out in the dirt, and Anton is already cleaning up the mess with the cold precision of a guy who deletes problems for a living. Fast forward a few hours. The kid is finally asleep upstairs, and Damien and Savannah are just sitting frozen next to a cold stone fireplace. The adrenaline crash is so real. No matter how many wins you rack up in life, the moments after the battle are always the hardest to process. You really have to find your peace in the quiet spaces. The fire in the hearth is barely alive, casting a gloomy orange light over their exhausted faces. Savannah finally snaps, to Damien that he cannot point and shrug, and that this is never happening again. Damien quietly agrees, saying he only controls what he can. Then he lays out the ultimate grim reality. With Marcus out of the picture, the big boss Blackwood is officially blind. He has zero inside intel left, meaning he will stop playing nice and bring the fight straight to them. Damien is completely unwilling to sit around and wait for the attack. Savannah asks how they strike back, and Damien goes full financial warfare mode. He wants to cut all of Blackwood's cash flow, claiming that money is his real territory. The lesson? If you really want to take down a massive giant, you do not punch him, you sweep his legs. Damien hits her with a heavy truth, saying he absolutely refuses to put her on the front lines again. But Savannah is just not having it. She stares him down across the ashes and basically tells him to stop treating her like a fragile damsel. She demands to be treated like a real partner. Damien locks eyes with her, the tension in the room thicker than concrete, until he finally gives in. And this is where Savannah drops the ultimate mic. She tells him her plan is already way better than his. They are not going to start a messy street war. Instead, she is going to take Marcus's dying confession, package it with Victor's taped statement, and build an undeniable ghost file. She is dropping the whole package straight onto 3 federal desks, using her old bureau ties. A solid team always respects each other's specific strengths. Look at this masterclass in revenge. The feds will kick down Blackwood's doors, totally clueless about who fed them the intel. The Krov's family will stay perfectly invisible, but Savannah is not stopping there. Before the feds even boot up, she is hacking straight into Blackwood's banking network. For 60 straight hours, she is going to be an absolute ghost in his machine. Then, she drains 60% of his massive wealth, and she is not keeping a single dime. She is washing millions into charity funds, just to rub salt in the wound. Damien is completely stunned by this brutal level of mercy. He asks if she is seriously just giving it all away. Savannah does not even blink, telling him she has zero need for dirty money. True power is not about hoarding massive wealth. It is about knowing exactly when to walk away. Savannah is operating on a totally different level right now. She tells Damien she needs Blackwood completely ruined. See, draining a mob boss's bank account hurts way more than taking out his goons. Shatters the one thing you cannot shoot: the blind loyalty of guys, expecting a solid paycheck. Damien actually smiles at this. Guys, it is only the second time she has ever seen this man smile. He tells her she is the greatest thing to ever happen to his family. Savannah just smirks back, saying she is the worst thing to happen to Blackwood. Right then, little Lily wanders into the hall hugging her stuffed rabbit, saying she had a nightmare about bad guys. Damien scoops her up, like it is nothing, promising there are no bad people left in the house. Destroy the bad guys, but always leave room to protect the innocent. Lily makes him promise, burying her face right into his collar. Savannah watches them in the dim firelight and finally has this massive realization. She is done running from the crazy shadows of this lifestyle. She is officially choosing it. The life lesson here is simple, really. We do not get to pick the traumas we go through, but we absolutely choose who we stand next to when the lights go out. For the next 3 days, the house is totally dead quiet. Savannah is fully locked in, staring at glowing monitors for 14 hours straight. The only time she pauses is when Damien drinks her a bowl of warm soup. He never interrupts her hacking flow. He just stays right there, making sure she remembers to actually survive. Sometimes caring just means bringing someone soup while they dismantle an entire criminal empire. So picture this, guys. Savannah goes deep into the black waters of this mob's dirty money, peeling back all the rotten layers. We are talking shell banks in Malta, ghost accounts in Cyprus, and dummy corporations washing dark cash through Panama. There is even a fake crypto vault in Luxembourg. But here is the craziest part. For 60 straight hours, she does absolutely nothing. Not one comma changed. She just sits there, timing her keystrokes to the exact heartbeat of their security systems, so they do not feel the blade slipping in. It is absolute madness. But honestly, there is a real lesson here. The biggest moves you make in life usually happen in complete silence, while everyone else is making noise. That kind of patience is just terrifying. Stick with me here, because this quiet violence is where the story gets totally unhinged. If Blackwood's goons felt even a tiny ripple, they would lock it all down. So she builds this massive 340-page dossier of pure ruin in the shadows. She links 2 years of Marcus's digital traffic to a dirty relay in Indiana and attaches Victor's video confession with flawless time codes. She even mapped out their smuggling routes and 6 unsolved murders. A literal masterpiece of destruction. And through all this chaos, Damien just sits in the corner, watching her absolutely cook. It really goes to show you, guys, having someone who just supports your grind without getting in the way is the ultimate flex in any relationship. Okay, so near midnight on the second day, Damien sets his glass down and flat out tells her she is more dangerous than any gun he owns. She just keeps her eyes glued to the screens. By the 3rd morning, she is looking completely wrecked, rocking those deep, bruised shadows under her eyes. Her hair is an absolute mess, but she is locked in. Damien walks over and hands her a warm ceramic mug. She asks what he needs, and he just says, nothing, just coffee. It is black, completely unsweetened with just 1 drop of cream. Exactly how she takes it when she refuses to admit she is falling apart. It is a solid reminder that paying attention to the little things about the people you care about means more than any big, flashy gesture ever could. She is caught off guard, her voice tight when she whispers that he really pays attention. Damien hits her with that deep confession, saying he pays attention to everything about her. No dramatic speeches here, guys. She just grabs his calloused hand, holding on for dear life, and he promises this will all be over soon. Then Friday hits, and the trap is set. At 3 o'clock sharp, she slams that return key. In exactly 47 seconds, Street grabbed his shirt. $312 million of blood money completely vanishes, bleeding out into 180 untraceable accounts. Honestly, it just proves that when you plan your moves carefully, you can take down the biggest giants without throwing a single punch. Look at this, guys. At that exact same second, Blackwood's financial ledgers are totally wiped and replaced with corrupted files that will instantly crumble if the feds even blink at them. Up in Milwaukee, Silas Blackwood is staring at his screen as his massive empire drops to zero. The dude is screaming his lungs out, smashing his desk, calling every dirty fixer he knows. But nobody is picking up. The ghosts took it all. And right when he starts sweating bullets, Savannah's encrypted dossier magically drops onto the desks of 3 federal agents and 2 hungry reporters in Chicago. It is officially game over. Sometimes life teaches you the hard way that the higher you build your tower on lies, the harder you hit the pavement when it falls. You already know the feds are never going to figure out who gave them the absolute cheat code to this case. At 4:11 the next morning, tactical teams are kicking down doors at 6 different Blackwood spots. Silas gets dragged out of his fancy bedroom in cold steel handcuffs, totally shivering. And the best part? There is zero evidence linking any of this back to the Cross family. Hours later, Damien is chilling in the farm kitchen with his coffee, watching the news. He looks at Savannah and says, "She just broke an empire. He fought for 8 years, without firing a single bullet. She just sips her coffee like an absolute boss." The ultimate lesson here? Brains will always beat brawn, and the sharpest weapon you can ever wield is your mind. Fast forward 2 weeks, and the Blackwood syndicate is totally cooked. Silas is rotting in a cell with 0 bail, and his top goons folded in 48 hours to save their own skins. The Cross family quietly takes over the streets, completely untouchable. But Damien does not even throw a party. Instead, he uses the chaos to just vanish. They pack up and head back to the freezing winds of Chicago, leaving their old apartment empty. Damien actually makes his crew scrub the place down to the bare floorboards, wiping away every trace of Savannah's perfume and the sad memories of her sister. It is a heavy move, but sometimes, guys, you have to completely burn down the museums of your own sadness before you can finally start building a real future. You and I both know that surviving a nightmare is one thing, but learning how to live in the light afterward is the real challenge. They buy this massive, 3-story brick townhouse on a quiet street in Lincoln Park. It is bought through a shell company, but Savannah totally owns the deed. When they walk in, Damien hands her a single brass key and tells her this is her home, not his. When she asks if he will ever get a key, he just says she can give him one when she is ready. Talk about respecting boundaries. Outside, there is a security detail so hidden that the neighbors think it is a local charity. It really shows that true love is not about forcing your way into someone's space, but giving them the keys and waiting for them to open the door. You and I both know true healing never happens with fireworks. It is quiet. Take little Lily. By week 1, she is running her playground crew. By week 2, she is teaching kids to check classroom lamps for dust total Mafia survival paranoia still kicking. Meanwhile, our girl Savannah steps into the daylight, opening Rhodes Cyber Solutions in River North. Totally legit business. Damien is the silent backer, staying out of her way. Enter Eli Park, her first hire. The poor kid shows up sweating in a shirt he definitely ironed twice, mumbling some apology about not fighting a bad corporate order. Savannah shuts that down fast. She tells him he spoke up and they ignored him. Simple lesson here. Guys, you cannot carry the guilt for other people's terrible choices. Savannah looks Eli right in the eyes and drops a massive truth bomb. She tells him he does not owe her anything. He pays her by doing excellent work. Keep this lesson in your back pocket. Guys, real loyalty comes from mutual respect, not some leftover guilt trip. Now, across town, Damien is literally burning his own dark empire to the ground. Our guy is dismantling the Cross Syndicate piece by piece. He wipes out the bloody suburban enforcers first, then dissolves the shady cash couriers who caught 3 bodies last year. Instead of mob stuff, he forces his family's massive cash flow into legit businesses like casinos and hotels. Best of all, he fires his own toxic relatives. He cuts off the leeches who only wanted violence. The miserable old loyalty is officially dead. Look, Damien is not magically turning into a saint, and Savannah never asked him to. He is just trying to be a different guy. The simple lesson is that real effort to change is all you can ask of someone. Fast forward to a Saturday in autumn. Damien rolls up to their townhouse for dinner. He was literally summoned by Lily, who left a folded index card under his windshield wiper like a tiny mob boss. The kid treats this dinner like a high-stakes mafia. Sit down. She picks the fancy plates, puts Mr. Biscuit in the third chair, and demands lasagna. No debate. Damien knocks on the door, and guess what he brought? A long, sleek wooden recurve bow. And the crazy twist? It was carved by the exact same guy who used to make his father's deadly sniper rifles. Lily stares at the bow, her name perfectly carved into the grip. She pulls it to her chest, looking up with huge eyes. You actually remembered, she whispers. Damien just looks at her, his rough voice dropping as he tells her he promised he would. And you and I both know that a kept promise in the Mafia world is basically a unicorn. It just does not happen. Later on, after Lily and Mr. Biscuit are finally asleep, Savannah and Damien hit the balcony. The street lamps are giving off this moody, cinematic glow. Damien looks at her and asks the big question, does she regret taking the contract with him? Savannah smiles. She tells him she regrets falling asleep at her desk on day 1. But the contract? Never. And when he asks if she regrets him, she stares right back. No. She tells him straight up, you are not what I regret. Damien reaches across that tiny metal table and puts his huge scarred hand over hers. No dramatic Hollywood kiss, no crazy declarations, just a quiet moment neither of them wants to ruin. The lesson here is clear: the most real things in life do not need a flashy label to matter. Fast forward 3 months, and Chicago feels weirdly peaceful. But Savannah did not survive the bureau by being naive. She knows you never trust a quiet room. It is a random Thursday at Rhodes Cyber Solutions when everything flips. A warning message flashes across a super encrypted channel. Here is the insane part: she has only shared this channel with exactly 3 people in the world, and the sender field is totally blank. The message says Silas gave one final order before getting locked up, and she has a shadow. Watch the photographer. Savannah just stares at the screen, her blood literally freezing. She forwards the text straight to Damien, without typing a single word. She does not have to. Damien goes full scorched earth, unleashing his absolute best hounds. 3 days later, they find a total ghost. Enter Ronan Fitzgerald, a brutal hitman from Boston. This guy only books jobs through one specific defense attorney in Milwaukee. Guess who that lawyer visited for an unrecorded 40 minutes right before Silas got arrested? Yep. Fitzgerald is running a massive cover as a freelance photographer. It is a flawless illusion, assuming you do not have a cyber genius digging through your digital trash. Stick with me here, because this is the craziest twist. The hit was never for Damien. It was for Savannah. Silas knew the ultimate lesson in revenge: if you want to truly destroy a man, you do not shoot him. You take the woman he loves. It leaves a crater no bullet ever could. Fitzgerald has been stalking them for 3 whole weeks. He has creepy photos of Savannah drinking coffee, little Lily going to school, everything. Damien reads this dossier in his back office, literally shaking with pure, unadulterated rage. He growls that he is handling it himself, but Savannah steps in. She reminds him of his promise: no mafia violence. Damien is losing his mind, arguing that this is her life on the line. Savannah just looks at him, ice cold, and says she is going to handle it herself. She asks him for exactly 72 hours. You and I can literally feel the panic tearing through Damien. It physically hurts this guy to stand down, but he agrees on one absolute condition: heavy, invisible security on Savannah and Lily at all times. But Savannah is already playing chess. She builds her trap overnight. She sets up a fake routine, visiting this trendy coffee shop in the West Loop with a massive front window. 8:15 every morning. Same table, same drink, same exact coat. Our hitman, Fitzgerald, stalks her for 2 days and decides to strike on the 3rd. But here is the massive plot twist. On day 3, the woman sitting in that window is not Savannah. It is Special Agent Maya Chen, an old bureau friend Savannah, called in to slam the trap shut. Maya is rocking the exact same build, the identical trench coat, and the same bag. It is flawless, and what Fitzgerald totally misses. The 2 baristas making lattes are undercover feds, and Maya sits there for 32 agonizing minutes, until this assassin finally slips into the booth across from her. He starts pulling his hand out of his jacket to make the hit, but he never finishes the motion. The feds swarm him in seconds. They dump his bag on the floor, exposing terrifying surveillance photos of Savannah, Lily, and Damien. Boom. Ironclad federal conspiracy charge. And the lesson here? Cowards always shatter when you corner them. Staring down a brutal prison sentence, this supposedly elite hitman starts spilling all his secrets before the van even reaches the federal courthouse. To save his own skin, Fitzgerald completely sells out the rest of the Blackwood network. He hands over a cash courier in St. Paul, a money-laundering dental clinic, and 3 guys in Milwaukee, just waiting to steal Silas's throne. In less than a week, a massive federal sweep wipes the syndicate off the map. Back at the club, Damien is sitting in his dark office taking it all in. His main enforcer, Anton, just looks out the window and states the obvious. He points out that Savannah just destroyed their biggest rival in days, something their mob crew failed to do in 10 years without spilling a single drop of blood. Damien stares out at the foggy Chicago skyline, feeling this massive, heavy shift in his chest. "I know," he whispers. "That is exactly why I love her." Guys, that is literally the very first time Damien has ever spoken the word love out loud. Anton just nods, totally unsurprised. Later that night, Damien stomps into a flower shop and buys out their entire stock of yellow tulips. Why? Because Savannah randomly mentioned them once, weeks ago, while chopping vegetables. The real lesson here is that true love means paying attention to the tiny details. When Savannah opens her front door, wiping her hands on a towel, she sees this massive explosion of yellow flowers. She does not even look confused. She knows exactly what is happening. Damien's deep voice is literally shaking as he says he needs to tell her something. She just invites him inside. Right there on the living room carpet, little Lily looks up from her crayons and spots him. Lily spots the massive tulips and sees the terrified look on this huge mob boss's face. Like a professional, the kid grabs her stuffed animal, announces they are going upstairs, and marches off. Left alone, this incredibly dangerous man cannot even find his voice. He stammers, telling Savannah he has no idea how to do this. Savannah steps right up, putting a gentle finger over his lips. "Do not rehearse," she whispers. "Just say it." Finally, he breathes it out. "I love you." He admits he's ever understood that word before her, and he is not asking her to say it back. He just needed her to know. Savannah stands there, letting his absolute vulnerability wash over her. The final lesson here? Dropping your armor and opening your guarded heart is easily the bravest move a person can make. Her voice finally breaks the silence, telling him she loves him too, probably since that very first night. It is a massive turning point. 6 whole months roll by, and spring hits Chicago. They do not rush a single thing. Damien keeps his penthouse. She keeps her spot, but he is practically living there 3 nights a week. The guy even gets his own shirt drawer and a dedicated coffee mug, with a tiny letter D drawn by Lily. And the wildest part of all this? The little girl finally stopped calling him Mister. It is honestly so wholesome. It reminds us that real healing takes time, and the strongest bonds are built slowly, block by block, without rushing the process or forcing people to be ready before they actually are. After that night, everything just shifts. He is not the scary mob boss, Mr. Cross, anymore. He is literally Uncle Damien. Lily even officially promotes him to second assistant to Mr. Bskit, which is absolutely hilarious. Cut to a bright Saturday in April. The drama is behind them, and they are making pancakes. Lily is running the kitchen, getting white flour everywhere. Damien asks what she wants to do today, and she immediately demands a trip to the zoo so she can ride a llama. Savannah is dying of laughter, telling her she cannot ride llamas. Lily insists Uncle Damien said she could. Damien just laughs and says he promised a picture, not a ride. It is a sweet reminder that no matter how dark your past is, you can always find your way back to simple, pure joy. Lily thinks it over like a tiny lawyer and accepts the deal. Savannah jokes that he is learning, and Damien drops a smooth line about having a good teacher. He really is putting in the work, guys. He is grinding to make his entire empire legit. 78% of their cash is fully clean now, running through licensed casinos. But the craziest part is his own redemption arc. He tracks down the widows of 3 guys who got taken out during his old gang wars and sets up private funds for their futures. Nobody calls it guilt money, but everyone knows he is trying to wash the blood off his hands. The lesson here is pretty clear. You cannot rewrite the ugly chapters of your history, but you can always pick up the pen and write a better ending. Now, Damien would never call himself a saint. The guy has way too many skeletons in the closet for that. But he is not that ruthless boss anymore, and Savannah totally sees him trying. She does not demand perfection. She just loves the man who is putting in the effort. Meanwhile, she is absolutely crushing it. Her cyber firm is huge now, doing silent jobs for the feds, and she is even giving lectures at a major university. Life is finally peaceful, and everything is on track. But listen to this, guys. Just as she is sitting in her favorite coffee shop enjoying the quiet, her phone suddenly buzzes. It is an unlisted number she has never seen before. It just goes to show you that right when you get vulnerable, the universe loves to throw you a wild curveball. Out of nowhere, Savannah gets a call, and it is an FBI agent from the Chicago office. The ghosts of her hacker past have officially tracked her down. But hold up, the agent does not want to lock her up. They know everything Savannah did off the books, and instead of throwing her in a cell, they want to hire her. They are offering her a totally legitimate consulting job. We are going to unpack this together, because this is where the entire narrative flips. Savannah sits there in absolute shock, staring out the window, and calmly says she will think about it. She realizes this is not a setup or a trap. It is massive respect. She will never wear a badge again, but hunting down the actual villains from the safety of her own computer? That is the ultimate redemption arc. Real power is not about hiding in the shadows. It is about finally choosing how you step into the light. Savannah finally spills the tea to Damien out on the balcony. The feds actually gave her an offer. Damien doesn't even flinch. He just looks at her, dead serious, asking if she wants to take the deal. Savannah is totally torn between being hyped and absolutely terrified. Damien goes full ride or die, grabbing her hand and dropping the ultimate loyalty line. He's got her back no matter what she decides. Upstairs, Lily is fast asleep, completely clueless about their messy, chaotic life under the glowing Chicago skyline. Listen, we really need to sit with this moment. Judging someone quickly can completely wreck a bond that took years to build. The life lesson here is so simple. The absolute most powerful thing you can do is just show up and listen to your people. It takes way more guts to apologize and start over than to just stay bitter. This crazy journey is all about getting a second chance. It's a massive shout-out to the absolute legends who keep our chaotic lives together without ever asking for a simple thank you. It proves that biology definitely doesn't make you a real father. Your true family are the ride-or-die friends standing between you and absolute disaster. The life lesson here is obvious. You have to value the ones who stick around when things get brutal. If this insane story hit you right in the feels, smash that like button. Share this video with a friend who needs some hope, and hit subscribe so we can keep unpacking the wild drama. Drop a comment below. Have you ever felt ignored by the people you trust? Let's chat.
Damien S.'s reaction to Savannah is harsh, but emotional context through the death of his younger brother Evan. Years earlier, Evan died during a federal raid because a guard fell asleep at his post. Since then, Damien has lived by a strict rule. Anyone found asleep during duty is immediately removed. This rule is not simply policy, it is grief turned into law. That makes Damien human, but it also makes him dangerous. He allows one old wound to control a new situation without asking whether the facts are the same. This offers a meaningful educational lesson. Trauma can explain why people react strongly, but it should not be allowed to replace judgment. Many carry pain from past betrayal, loss, or failure. They build rules to protect themselves from experiencing the same pain again. Those rules may feel safe, but they come unfair when applied blindly to people who are not responsible for the original wound. Damien sees Savannah through the memory of Briggs and Evan, not through the reality of what she actually did. Only later does he understand that Marcus used this wound against him, knowing exactly how to make him dismiss the one person who could expose the betrayal. The story teaches viewers that unresolved grief can make people easier to manipulate. When pain becomes automatic reaction, others can predict and exploit it. Real growth begins when Damien admits he was wrong and apologizes properly. He does not hide behind his grief as an excuse. He tells Savannah the truth, accepts responsibility, and changes how he treats her. Educationally, this is powerful. Healing does not mean forgetting the past. It means refusing to let the past make unjust decisions in the present.